From the very early stages of the battle, it is clear that both Wellington and Napoleon saw the tactical and strategic significance of Hougoumont. Wellington had initially garrisoned the farm and its gardens with men from the 2nd Nassau Regiment and elements of the 1st Hanoverian Brigade. These were later strengthened by the light companies from the 1st, 2nd and 3rd Regiments of Foot Guards from General Byng's 2nd British Brigade. Napoleon's initial battle plan called for troops on his left flank from General Rey's 2nd Corps to attack Hougoumont, fix the Allied forces there and draw Wellington's reserve from the centre in order to facilitate a large and decisive combined arms attack. The defence began as one of the first movements of the Battle of Waterloo. Wellington recorded in his dispatches that the French began a furious attack at about 10 o'clock. This initial attack by Boudin's 1st Brigade managed to clear the wood on the southern side of Hougoumont, but British artillery fire and musketry from the Guards would take a toll, driving the attack back and killing Boudin. The next attack from the French would not only try to force Hougoumont from the south, but also from the west. Men of the Light Company from the 3rd Foot Guards were pursued by this attack northwards up the western wall. The British Guards managed to narrowly escape into the northern courtyard, closely followed by the French. Approximately 30 French attackers managed to force the northern gate before having them closed behind them by the defenders. These men included the garrison commander, Lieutenant Colonel MacDonell. This incursion led to the much-told story of French Sous-Lieutenant Legros fighting hand-to-hand combat with a commandeered pioneer's axe. Once the gates were closed behind them, the French attackers were killed to a man, springing another legend that only a drummer boy survived and was cared for by Private Matthew Clay of the 3rd Foot Guards. Wellington later said, "The success of the Battle of Waterloo turned on the closing of the gates." The next French attacks were then focused on the eastern side of Hougoumont, into the orchard. This was the scene of bitter and difficult fighting, with the wooded areas changing hands several times throughout the day. Another of the stories that has achieved legendary status in the wake of the battle was that of a driver of the Royal Wagon Train, who risked life and limb to bring much-needed ammunition to the besieged defenders, distinguishing himself in the process. At around 3 o'clock, a battery of howitzers was brought forward by the French and put to work pounding Hougoumont. A result of this was a significant fire that ripped through the chateau and several of the other farm buildings. This caused untold havoc to the defenders, killing wounded as they sheltered in barns and burning horses to death in their stables. Even amongst this carnage, the Allies occupying buildings and walls as they could, the defence held, but their day's work was not over yet. In the early evening, the French attackers made another concerted effort to carry the position, this time concentrating the efforts at the southeastern end of the walled formal garden. They may have even achieved a small escalade of the wall before being driven back by the stalwart defence. There is no doubt that the defenders of Hougoumont contributed significantly to the Allied victory. The defenders had drawn in approximately 14,000 French that could not have, but maybe should have been, better employed elsewhere. Wellington dedicated around 6,000 men to the defence of Hougoumont, and this included the troops that were used to keep the Holloway open for resupply and reinforcement. Wellington is quoted as saying after the battle, "You may depend upon it that no troops but the British could have held Hougoumont, and only the best of them at that." Now, I believe Wellington would have been better saying that no troops but the Allied troops could have held, but in all other regards he was right.